Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be jumping into the world of robotics.
Robotics. Exciting stuff.
Yeah, especially this one that we found.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. We're talking about the Torso2 from Clone Robotics.
Clone robotics.
And this thing has been blowing up online.
Oh, really?
I mean, everywhere.
You go.
Everywhere.
You see something about it? Yeah, Reddit's going crazy. People are posting all these videos of it on YouTube.
Okay, so we've got like the online community really buzzing about it.
Oh, yeah. Tech blogs are writing it up.
All right.
Even some like social media people are kind of throwing in their 2 cents.
Gotcha. Okay, so we've got a lot to pull from them.
Yeah, we've got a ton of stuff. So we're going to try to break down, what's going on with this Torso2.
Okay.
What is it? Why is everyone talking about it?
Yeah.
And what might it mean for, the future?
All right, so kind of cut through the noise and get to the substance.
Yeah, exactly. So, let's see. I guess jumping right in this thing is pretty impressive.
It is.
I mean, just the specs alone.
Okay. I was looking at some of the articles, and they're talking about like 910 muscle fibers in this thing, 164 degrees of freedom.
Wow.
It even has transparent skin, so you can see like all the inner workings.
That's a little creepy.
I know, it kind of freaks me out a little bit.
It's very sci-fi.
Yeah, it's like Westworld come to life.
Hmm.
And so, like, what do those numbers even mean? 910 muscle fibers, 164 degrees of freedom. Like,
Well,
how does that translate?
yeah, so if you think about like a normal robot, they can be pretty clunky, like they move in very limited ways.
Right, they can't really do fine motor stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's like pick up the box, move the box, put the box down. But with 164 degrees of freedom, this thing can move in ways that we haven't really seen robots move before, especially at the price point that we're expecting this to come out at.
Right.
This level of dexterity is kind of unheard of. It's like they took the human torso and like perfectly recreated it.
So it moves like a human.
It moves very similar to a human. I think that's why people are getting so freaked out.
Yeah, because it's not just like a hunk of metal.
Right.
Doing kind of pre-programmed movements. It's like, it actually moves like a person.
Huh.
That is unsettling.
It is unsettling, and that's before we even get into how it actually works.
Okay, so how does this thing work? What's the magic behind it?
Air. It's all air-powered.
Air-powered. What do you mean?
So it uses a system of pneumatics. So they have these artificial muscles that are powered by air pressure.
Huh. Interesting. So is that why in the videos you can hear like this hissing sound?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when the muscles contract and relax, they release air.
Oh, so that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and I know it's not the most pleasant sound.
It's a little creepy.
It is a little creepy. But Clone Robotics has said that they are working on silent hydraulics for future models.
Okay, so the hissing is only temporary.
Right. It's a limitation of the current tech.
Yeah.
But they're working on making it completely silent.
So imagine that this thing moving like a human, but with no sound at all.
Yeah.
That would be truly scary.
That's when it starts to get into like uncanny valley territory.
Exactly.
Like that's when I start getting a little uncomfortable.
All right, so we talked about the specs, we talked about the tech, but let's get into why people are freaking out.
Right.
Because like I said, the internet is going crazy over this thing.
It is. I mean, you look at the Reddit threads and it's like a roller coaster of emotions.
Some people are like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Other people are like, the robot uprising has begun. We're all gonna die.
I mean, I've definitely seen a lot of Terminator references floating around.
Like Ex Machina became real.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting how this kind of technology really taps into our deepest fears.
Right, like the whole idea of artificial intelligence becoming self-aware and turning on us.
Exactly. And I think that's why we're seeing such a strong reaction to Torso2.
Right.
Because it's not just a machine. It's a machine that moves and acts in ways that we previously thought were unique to humans.
Yeah, but it blurs the lines a little bit.
It blurs the lines, and that can be pretty unsettling for some people.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, it's one thing to have like a Roomba cleaning your floors.
Right.
But it's another thing entirely to have a robot that can like,
Mhm.
I don't know, fold your laundry or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Like something that's doing tasks that are very human.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those fears are valid.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people online talking about job displacement.
Yeah.
Like, if a robot can do manual labor, well, what happens to people who rely on those jobs?
Right. What happens to the truck drivers and the factory workers and the...
Exactly. All those people whose jobs could potentially be automated.
Yeah, it's a legitimate concern. And it's something we need to think about seriously as this technology continues to develop.
It is. I think we need to be having conversations about how we can prepare for a future where automation is more widespread.
Right. Because it's not just about fearing the robots. It's about figuring out how humans and machines can coexist in the workforce.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. Like, how do we make sure that everyone benefits from these advances in technology?
Yeah, and how do we make sure that no one is left behind?
Exactly. It's a complex issue, but it's one that we need to address.
All right, so we've got this amazing tech that's capable of incredible things.
Yeah.
We've got people freaking out online about the potential downsides.
Yeah.
But now let's address the big question.
The big question.
Is clone robotics legit?
Legit.
Or are they a scam?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah, because there are some people online who are saying that this whole thing is too good to be true.
Right. I mean, I've seen those comments too. People are saying that they're over-promising and under-delivering.
Yeah, like some people are digging into the company's background.
Oh, really?
And they're finding some inconsistencies.
Like what kind of inconsistencies?
No, like the founder's history is a little bit murky.
Murky.
Yeah, there's not a lot of information out there about him.
Okay, so a lack of transparency.
Yeah, and some people are even saying that the pre-orders for the full-body robots
The full-body robots.
are a little bit fishy.
Fishy.
Like the capabilities they're claiming for these robots seem way too advanced for where the technology is at right now.
Okay, so some skepticism about the timeline and the capabilities.
Exactly. And so it's hard to know what to believe.
Yeah, it's hard to tell if they're genuine innovators or just really good at hype.
Right.
And I think that's where things get tricky.
Yeah, because on the one hand, you don't want to stifle innovation
Right.
by dismissing something outright.
Yeah, you don't want to be the person who said the internet was a fad.
Exactly.
But on the other hand, you don't want to get swept up in empty promises.
Right. You don't want to be left holding the bag when the whole thing turns out to be a sham.
Exactly. So it's a delicate balance.
Okay, so how do we figure out where clone robotics falls on that spectrum?
Well, I think we need to take a closer look at their claims,
Okay.
examine their track record, and really trying to separate the facts from the fiction.
All right. So let's do it. Let's dive deeper into clone robotics and see if we can figure out what they're all about.
Let's do it. I'm curious to see what we find. So, digging a little deeper into clone robotics, the first thing that kind of jumps out at me is like the lack of information. Like their website, it looks nice.
Yeah.
It's very sleek, but there's not a lot of substance there.
Yeah, you'd think that if you were making these huge claims about your tech, you'd want to like show off your team,
Yeah.
your research, your funding.
Mm.
But there's not much there.
Like, where's the white paper?
Right, exactly. It's like they're hiding something.
Yeah, and that makes me a little suspicious.
Yeah, that lack of transparency definitely feeds into the whole scam narrative.
Right, and then you add in the whole thing about the founder's background.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Some people have been digging into that, and they're finding some inconsistencies.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, his LinkedIn profile doesn't really add up.
Right, it's like he's embellishing his credentials a little bit.
Yeah, and that makes you wonder about the legitimacy of the whole operation.
It does. It makes you question whether they're being intentionally deceptive or if they're just really bad at, like, presenting themselves professionally.
Right, like maybe they're just a young startup that hasn't figured out the whole PR thing yet.
It's possible.
But even if we give them the benefit of the doubt,
Okay.
there's still the issue of those full-body robots
Oh, yeah, the full-body robot.
that they're taking pre-orders for.
Right.
Like the stuff they're claiming those robots can do,
Uh-huh.
it just seems way too advanced.
Yeah, like it's a huge jump from a torso
Right.
to a fully functioning humanoid robot.
It's like they skipped a few steps.
It feels like science fiction.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder if it's all just smoke and mirrors
Right. Like, are they just trying to generate hype?
to get those pre-orders.
Yeah, and then they'll run off with money.
That's definitely a possibility.
It is. So I think we need to be cautious.
Okay, so where does that leave us?
Well, I think we need to keep an open mind,
Okay,
but also be skeptical.
right. It's like that saying, trust but verify.
Exactly. We can't just blindly accept their claims.
But we also shouldn't dismiss them outright.
Right, because sometimes the most groundbreaking innovations,
Uh-huh.
they face a lot of resistance early on.
Yeah, like people thought the Wright brothers were crazy
Exactly.
for trying to fly.
So it's possible that clone robotics is onto something truly revolutionary.
But it's also possible that they're just really good at selling a dream.
Right.
So let's shift gears for a second.
Okay.
And let's assume, for the sake of argument, that Torso2 is the real deal.
Right.
That the hype is justified. What are the potential applications for this kind of technology?
Oh, man. The possibilities are endless.
Yeah, we talked about the fears,
Right.
the job displacement and all that.
Hmm.
But what about the positive side?
Yeah, what about the good that this tech could do?
Exactly. Like, how could this technology be used to actually help people?
Well, one area that immediately comes to mind is healthcare.
Healthcare.
Imagine robots with this level of dexterity assisting surgeons,
Oh, wow.
performing delicate procedures.
With more precision than a human could.
Exactly. And not just surgery. Think about elder care.
Elder care.
Robots could provide companionship assistance with daily tasks,
Yeah, that would be huge.
especially as the population ages.
It could really improve people's quality of life.
Right. And then there are all the dangerous jobs that robots could do.
Oh, yeah, like search and rescue.
Disaster relief, space exploration.
Places where it's too risky to send humans.
Exactly. Robots could go in there and do the work safely and efficiently.
So we're talking about robots saving lives.
Potentially, yeah.
Exploring new frontiers.
Pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
It's pretty exciting when you think about it that way.
It is. It's like the flip side of the robot apocalypse coin.
Right. Instead of robots taking over the world.
They're helping us make it a better place.
Exactly.
But of course, there are still ethical considerations.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like any powerful technology,
Uh-huh.
it could be misused.
Right. We need to make sure that these robots are being used for good
Yeah, and that's a conversation that we need to be having now.
before it's too late.
Exactly. Because once this technology is out there in the world,
It's hard to put the genie back in the bottle.
right. So we need to be thinking about the implications
And setting up safeguards.
to ensure that these robots are used responsibly.
Okay, so it's not just about the tech itself.
Yeah.
It's about the ethics,
Right.
the societal impact.
Exactly. It's about shaping the future we want to see.
Okay, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But I want to go back to the online community for a minute,
Okay.
because I think it's important to hear what people are saying.
Yeah, like what are their hopes and fears?
Exactly. Like, how are they reacting to this technology?
All right, let's dive into those comments.
All right, so scrolling through these comments, it's really something.
Yeah, it's a mix of everything, isn't it?
It really is. You've got, like, the people who are making jokes.
Oh, yeah. Always got to have those.
Like, I saw one that said, this is cool, but can it make me a sandwich?
Classic. I mean, it really gets at the heart of it, doesn't it?
Yeah, like, we're talking about all this high-tech stuff.
Right.
But at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
people just want a robot that can do their chores.
It's like we've got robots writing poetry,
Yeah.
composing symphonies.
But can they fold my laundry?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The real-world applications are what people care about.
Right. And I think that's a good point. Like, how do we bridge that gap
Yeah.
between, the amazing things that AI can do
Uh-huh.
and the stuff that would actually make our lives easier?
I think that's the challenge for the next generation of roboticists.
Yeah. It's not enough to just create something cool.
Right.
It has to be useful.
Exactly.
All right, so here's another comment that caught my eye.
Okay.
Someone wrote, I'd rather see this technology used to help people, not replace them.
Okay. Yeah. That's a sentiment I've seen a lot.
Yeah, like, people are worried about the job displacement stuff,
Right.
but they also see the potential for good,
Uh-huh.
like robots helping nurses in hospitals
Yeah.
or assisting with disaster relief efforts.
Those are definitely applications that could have a huge impact.
Yeah, like, imagine a robot that could go into a burning building
Right.
and rescue people.
That would be incredible.
Yeah. Or a robot that could deliver medicine to remote villages.
Or help with search and rescue operations after an earthquake.
Exactly.
Ugh.
There are so many ways this technology could be used to make the world a better place.
I think that's what gives me hope.
Yeah, me too.
Oh.
Like, it's easy to get caught up in the fear,
Yeah.
but we need to remember that technology is a tool
It's how we use it.
that determines whether it's good or bad.
And that's a responsibility we all share.
Okay, so one last comment I want to highlight.
Right.
Someone simply wrote, this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think they're absolutely right.
It does feel like we're on the cusp of something big.
Like, AI and robotics are advancing at an incredible pace.
And the next few years are going to be really interesting.
Yeah, like, think about where we'll be in 5 years, 10 years.
It's hard to even imagine.
But one thing's for sure, the future of robotics is not predetermined.
We have a say in it.
Yeah, it's up to us to decide what role we want these machines to play in our lives.
And that's a conversation we need to keep having.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Torso2 and all the craziness surrounding it,
Yeah.
we want to leave you with a question.
Okay.
If you could design a robot using this technology, what would it be?
What problem would it solve?
What kind of impact would you want it to have on the world?
That's a good one to think about.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts. Because ultimately, the future of robotics
Is in our hands.
And that's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.